Welcome to Vacuum Wars, and to our review of the MOVA V50 Ultra Complete Robot Vacuum. It's the latest flagship with all the latest features and top-of-the-line specs from one of the fastest-growing brands out there. After buying one for ourselves and putting it through all kinds of tests over the past few weeks, to say that we were impressed is an understatement, and the MOVA V50 Ultra ended up taking the #1 spot on the Vacuum Wars Top 20 Robot Vacuum list on our website, and it is, at least for now, our favorite robot vacuum of any price. And in this video, I'll go over the pros and cons and explain why. So links in the description, and let's get started. First, the basics. The MOVA V50 Ultra Complete ships with an extensive accessory kit with lots of extra consumables. It's being priced well under its flagship competitors from Ecovacs or Roborock, even though it has similar, if not better, features in many cases. Starting off with the pros. The robot itself is well designed with premium hardware that makes it good at its main job of vacuuming hard floors and carpets. It has a single side brush and a newly designed dual main brush, both of which work together well for general sweeping of debris of various sizes without scattering. But the V50 also had well above average suction and airflow scores in our tests, which seemed to help with some of the practical performance tests too. For example, it was significantly above average with our carpet deep clean test, where we embed sand into carpet to see how much it can pick up, where it had a top 10 all-time score of 88%. Also, with the 2.5-inch flattened pet hair pickup test on carpet, which can be tricky for robot vacuums, it was above average as well. Its new brush system, which they call TurboWave Duo Brush, has multiple ways to reduce hair tangles, including channeling the hair to one side of the brush, and it did indeed get a perfect score on our 7-inch hair test. MOVA says that it can handle up to 11.8 inches or 30 centimeters of hair. It also has an automatically extending side brush, which really does help with corner coverage, and it did well with this in our tests. Another big pro with the MOVA V50 Ultra is its mopping ability. It uses 2 spinning mop pads, one of which automatically extends for better edge coverage. The pads also have a significant amount of downward pressure, and a new feature to me is the ability for the pads to tilt 5 degrees, which is supposed to help mop uneven surfaces. The mop pads can lift up automatically 10.5 millimeters to avoid getting carpets wet, which is a huge time saver as it avoids doing 2 runs for both surface types, but it also has magnetic pads that can be left at the base for carpet cleaning and then picked back up for hard floor cleaning to accomplish the same basic thing. As far as its actual mopping performance, in our dried on stain test, it scored a 109, which is well above the average of 93, and it got that great score while using about half as much water than average, which means it's a lot less prone to leaving streaks behind. All in all, its overall mopping performance score was 230, where the average is 188, so pretty good. But the V50's mopping story really can't be told unless we move to the next pro, which is its multifunctional dock. When the robot returns to its base to charge, it can do a lot of things besides just charging. For example, it will automatically empty the contents of its internal dustbin into a relatively large 3.2-liter disposable bag in the base, which MOVA says is good for 100 days of debris, but your mileage may vary. It also washes its mop pads with hot water, and they say that hot water can also be used for mopping floors too, which is rare, though I suspect that the water doesn't stay hot for long since, as far as I can tell, it doesn't have an internal heater on the robot. It washes its mop pads using a somewhat new version of mop pad washing using spray nozzles that distribute the water evenly, which may or may not be better than the traditional method. I still need to devise a way to test this against other types. Another somewhat new idea in the industry is something they're calling Omni-Dry, where in addition to it drying the mop pads with hot air after mopping, which is a great thing for keeping the mop pads free of moisture and odors, it also dries other components like the bag and filters, which technically shouldn't be getting wet, but I can see how they would sometimes, and it would be good if they were getting dried too. The V50 Ultra base is also unique in that it has a dual solution tank, another first as far as I can remember anyway, anyway. It comes with a general purpose cleaner and one called N-Soya Morpholine, which is supposed to be particularly effective against pet odors, and you can control which solution to use where in the app. Another pro is its navigation. The V50 uses a top-mounted LiDAR sensor, which is automatically retractable, so you get all the benefits of a top-mounted LiDAR, which I think is superior for mapping and smart navigation, but if it senses low furniture, it can retract to 89.5 millimeters or 3.5 inches, which is shorter than the average robot vacuum height. In our navigation tests, it was slightly more efficient than average and had good coverage in general. I've also been using it at our new office, and it's pretty smart so far. It's completed some pretty complex runs without any interventions. One really cool feature is its threshold crossing ability. If you tell it where thresholds are in the app, it will automatically lift up with a special wheel raising system and cross thresholds or similar obstacles up to 60 millimeters or 2.3 inches if they're two-tiered thresholds, but it will even do 38 millimeters or 1.5 inches straight up. And it was the first we've tested with this to be able to cross all three of our test thresholds, and it did so quite easily. The MOVA app, in my opinion, is as good or better than Roborock or Echovacs or any of the others. It's easy to set up, easy to use, and it gives you a ton of control over all the features of the robot. Things like clean along floor direction, water level adjustment, bin empty frequency behaviors, scheduling options, multi-floor mapping, virtual barriers, carpet boost, and a lot more. It also has advanced features like a built-in virtual voice assistant, the ability for it to recognize particularly dirty areas and give special attention to them when mopping, pet monitoring, and more. Moving on to the cons. The V50 has obstacle avoidance sensors in the front, which is a good thing. These sensors consist of an RGB camera and 3D structured light. It also has an LED light so that it can see in the dark. And it will avoid the bigger and more obvious objects, but at least in our obstacle avoidance tests, it was below average, only clearing 14 out of the 24 objects, where the average is 16. So certainly better than nothing, but not elite level obstacle avoidance. Another slight negative was its battery life. Its official battery life is 220 minutes on its lowest power setting, but in our battery life tests, which we run on all of the various power settings on a fixed floor plan, it was below average with battery efficiency, and its estimated square foot per charge number was 1033, which is right at the average amount, but only because it was better than average with navigation efficiency. So on large floor plans, you may expect to have it return to the base to recharge before completing its job, which it will do as it has recharge and resume as most robot vacuums do these days. Another thing was its internal dust bin was kind of small at 300 milliliters, a touch below average. I also did some research online to see if other users were experiencing any major red flags. And there were some software glitches early on. For example, the LiDAR turret was reported to not retract in some cases, though it seems that MOVA did semi-fix this by adding the ability to adjust how sensitive you want the robot to be about retracting its LiDAR, and I think it's another good sign that they're responding to criticisms with software updates. All in all, we were super impressed by the MOVA V50 Ultra, and because it's priced so much lower than its other flagship competitors, I think it's a major value even if it wasn't the actual best robot vacuum we've tested so far according to our ranking system. And indeed, after adding up all its scores, it knocked the Echovacs X9 out of the top spot on the Vacuum Wars Top 20 Robot Vacuum list on our website, which the X9 has held for several weeks, and in some ways I couldn't be happier. The X9, while technically an amazing vacuum, required a bit more attention to make it work out of the box, so I'm hoping the V50 can keep its number one position for several more weeks. Links in the description, and be sure to subscribe to Vacuum Wars before you leave. Thanks for watching. All of the links in the description are updated regularly to reflect our current favorite vacuums in multiple categories. You'll also find links to the Vacuum Wars website in the description, where we have more detailed lists of our favorite products, like our new Top 20 Robot Vacuums list, which is updated weekly.